Hello everybody, welcome to episode 9 of the Farscape Rewatch podcast.
Spring break!
Well, spring break. No spring break. Get back to work, damn it.
Sorry, okay.
But I'm your host, Cartmore Hats, and joining me as usual is Red Nightmare. Hello.
I already did my scream, so I'm sorry.
It's that guy. That guy.
I screamed prematurely. Like it happens to all of us.
But yeah, this is episode 9, and this is about the episode DNA Mad Scientist. Remember when we said they were using placeholder names for their episode titles?
Yeah, it shows.
It does a little bit, but that's okay. That's fine. But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today, and it's a good episode, I've thought, but...
But expect Dutch hyper rage.
Oh no. So, to get us off to our start, we have... Well, I'll just say, this episode, by the way, features a lot more of Jim Henson Creature Shop work, which is very good, and we'll probably be talking about that quite a lot. There's a bit of more character interactions, a little bit of a change up from previous episodes. We see what lengths people are willing to go to get things done. And there's only basically a couple of locations. We've got Moya, and, well, we've got where we start off, which is on an asteroid that Moira's orbiting.
Beautiful CG shot.
Very nice CG shot. But inside there is kind of a, I guess you would call it a laboratory.
Yeah, it's some sort of medical lab.
And we start off with John getting a needle poked into his eye.
How uncomfortable were you?
So uncomfortable. Like it's clearly like an effect, CG or something, to make it look like the needle actually goes into his eye, because I was expecting them to cut away. Like, it shows the needle approaching his eye. I was like, okay, they're going to cut here to another shot, and it's implied that it goes in. It's like, no. Right into the eyeball. Just
to note, that's a very big syringe, just so you know. That's not standard.
That's not okay.
Size syringe. For some reason, it doesn't cause their eyes to bleed profusely.
I don't know. Space science.
Yeah, expect me to jump in a lot with biology here.
Yeah, that's fair, because remember that when we've had physics runs, that's been me. But Red is a biologist, so...
Yes, this is my playground.
But what is actually going on is there's a alien scientist called Namtar, who is one of the aforementioned Creature Shop.
God, he looks amazing.
He's really good. So, okay, as a quick description, he's really tall. He's like 7 or 8 feet tall, because he's clearly the actor in the suit is wearing stilts, or like those...
some sort of stilts, which make it look like he has double knees.
Yes, and he has a large head with a sort of oval bits in the center, but it sort of goes out wide, almost like kind of looks like a bat kind of shaped head, but with sort of ears sculpted into the side of the head.
Seriously, look this guy up.
Yeah.
Holy crap, he looks good. His expressions as well.
Yeah.
The actor in there is... they have limited movement, especially because the mouth is done by animatronics, clearly.
Yes.
But so well done.
Yeah, and I also like that the way he moves is part of the acting. He's not just standing there and, going lumbering around. He actually sort of has a bit more fluid movement to him and his gestures and all that, and that's really good.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, what's going on is Namtar, his name is, and he's taking DNA from the crew with a needle to the eye, and then he will put the genetic data from them into his database to give them the location of their home worlds, and figure out how they can get home.
Because apparently you can map that genetically, which I'll believe that.
I mean,
having enough data, you can triangulate things like that.
Yeah, the idea that I got was that he's got a database of genetic backgrounds and where certain DNA strains come from.
11 million species, is
that? 11 million species, and cross-reference that with the DNA he gives them. It's like, okay, you're here, you can go here, because remember, they're in the uncharted territory, so they don't really know where they are.
No. And the reason they have to do a needle to the eye, he said, because John has can you just take a blood sample, or I'm skin scraping?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm working way beyond the double helix area. I was like,
what? Listen,
if you're working genetics, that's where you stop. I'm sorry.
Hey,
you can't go beyond that.
The way I saw this was they don't dwell on it very much. It's a very small thing, and it's also kind of like the fact that if I wanted to, I could really go about, you can't go faster than light and you can't wormholes.
Oh, that is true.
So it's the biological equivalent of that. It's not saying that DNA isn't a thing. It's just saying, I'm using super science.
To go to
beyond
genetics
DNA.
beyond DNA. I'm like, I wouldn't call it genetics anymore at that point. But okay, fine. I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
Yeah, again, that's about the only time that it is mentioned, and it's just why he's sticking them in the eye.
Yeah.
That's not all he wants, though.
No, he's like, he has their DNA and he shows a giant map.
Oh yeah, this is also a really cool effect.
Beautiful hologram of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And it zooms in on Zahn's planet.
Oh, this is a good scene from Zahn,
she's
by the way.
clearly very emotional about the fact that this is my home.
Yeah, because it zooms in, and then it shows her planet, and you have Zahn sort of looking at it, and there's like a tear rolling down her eye. It's really good.
Very good acting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something else he wants. Just not the samples.
Yeah, so he knows that they came here in a Leviathan. And they think, well, first of all, they think that he wants their ship, which obviously they're not going to do. But no, that's not what he wants. He wants a sample from Pilot.
A big sample.
An arm. He wants one of Pilot's arms.
From that point, well, that's when the opening sequence starts, of course.
Yeah, that's like the hook. It's like, I want your Pilot's arm. What?
Boom. Start episode.
Titles.
And then we cut to John and Aeryn basically drinking.
Yeah.
John straight drinks without even checking.
I like that because
he usually does.
Yeah, there's a line from Aeryn saying that he's usually very careful about these kind of things, which I like because he's clearly thinking, well, this is alien booze and I shouldn't. I need to make sure. But this time he's just like, nope.
Yeah, because the scientists told him that he can't find Earth.
Yeah, it's not in his database. He said over 11 million species, and he can't even narrow it down.
Yeah, can't even point him in the right direction. What I like here is that John's like, I don't even know if I'm close. I'm like, yeah, at this point, you're not even sure if you're in the right galaxy.
Yeah, probably.
In theory, you could be in any other galaxy, which means that good luck getting home.
Yeah. He's very much unhappy with that. And Aeryn is also not doing too good because she didn't have a sample taken from her. And she says, well, they're all trying to get home, but she can't go home. And remember, we talked about this in PK Tech Girl, that she is kind of the opposite to John in that she has a home to go back to. It's right there, but if she ever goes back to it, she'll die.
Yeah, she can't go back. And John could, in theory, go back. He just can't find his way home.
Yeah, I like this episode for a lot of bonding between John and Aeryn again.
Yeah, there's a lot of bonding between those two.
Really reinforcing that relationship, which is really good.
Yeah.
Alright, but...
He gets a bit flirty, but...
He's been drinking.
Yeah, okay, that is very clearly explained that he's kind of just drinking his sorrow away.
There's a small scene where, like, Aeryn goes up to the bar, and John goes up behind her and, like, puts his arm around her a bit, and then she just pushes him off. It's like, get off. Damn it, John. But
you've had one correct moment already.
Settle down, sir. But meanwhile, oh god, okay.
Because no, the cut is brilliant here. Because John's like, look, they're not going home either unless Pilot gives up an arm. We're just gonna blast out of in an hour with nothing. And then Aaron's like, have you seen how they looked when they said that? I don't think they're gonna ask. Cut to
cut to them literally forcing Pilot's arm, like they're cutting his arm off without his permission. He doesn't want them to do it.
I'd like to take a moment right now in the podcast to remind everybody who is wearing headphones, warn everybody who is wearing headphones, and everybody who has children nearby that Dutch Hyper Rage is coming.
Warning! Warning! Go!
How dare they!
I know, right? This is.
I got so mad at this scene.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
irrationally
upset.
mad.
This is an upsetting scene because they're holding down his arm. Pilot is very distraught. He is not okay with this.
No, they clearly didn't ask. They aren't negotiating. They're taking his arm.
Yeah, so it's Dargo and Zahn and Rigel.
From Rigel, I'd expect this. From the other two, I'm very disappointed.
I'm incredibly disappointed with Zahn. I don't know if I necessarily expect it from Dargo, but he's shown to be very aggressive when he needs to be.
Yeah, but even then, like, I wouldn't expect him to do this. He seemed to have limits. He doesn't lie to his enemies, but he'll cut off the arm of a friend. Fine.
The other thing is that, oh god, the puppet work really sells this because they do an incredible job of making Pilot just look terrified.
Yeah.
And screaming, and basically they hold him down, they hold his arm down, Dargo gets his qualter blade out and chops the arm off. It's like, holy shit! What the fuck?
Ugh.
It's
a sentient being.
I know. And it's like they're trying to get across how fiercely desperate they are to get home. It's just
no matter what they leave behind, humanity-wise.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And so yeah, that's bad.
Expect me to come back to that one a lot during this episode, because a lot of characters just went on the I hope they die soon list.
But so they got the arm. They got the arm, and and they go give it to Namtar, and he says, "Okay, you'll have your crystal soon."
And then Dargo's like, well, when is soon? And Namtar's like, "Oh, you don't trust me?" And it's like, "No, he doesn't trust you." Weird. He'll cut off an arm before he trusts you.
Like I said, it's again they're trying to set up just how desperate they are, but it comes off a little strong. I'll be honest.
They're a bunch of assholes. Yeah. Seriously.
So
this destroyed any affection I had for these characters. I'm sorry. Like Rigel's the only one that hasn't destroyed it because this is what he'd do.
Yeah,
it makes sense for him.
Exactly. I expect this from Rigel. The other thing is, it also shows how they actually see Pilot.
Because we learned that apparently they don't see him them as more than a servant.
Apparently. I mean, if they
like
can just
a slave, apparently.
If they can just straight up do this, then yeah. But there's a small thing here when they give him the arm, they walk away, they're going to go wait for Namtar to give them the crystal with the maps and stuff in it, and then he says, "Okay, this arm should be good because there's an experiment that is not working." And okay, we go through like another door in his laboratory, and holy, there's a mass of like.
It's
weird
like,
looking body parts with about like
two
faces, like multiple mouths, eyes.
Screeching in pain.
And there's a little bit of it that looks somewhat like Pilot with like the domed top
and the arms,
and it's screaming in pain and stuff. It's like okay, this seems good. There's nothing possibly can go wrong here.
That also got me. It's like
that was like so clearly as if we couldn't, as if you hadn't figured this out already simply by the way Namtar says you don't trust me. Namtar is not to be trusted.
No, he's the bad guy of this story.
Yeah, and we're back on Moya, and now Crichton. Crichton is calling everyone on their shit basically.
Yeah,
Actually,
Crichton is he's basically head to Pilot and asking him like, "How are you doing?" And Pilot is remarkably okay with it, like creepy okay.
Yeah, John is kind of getting mad and is upset that Pilot isn't upset.
Yeah, he's like, "How can you not be impossibly mad at this?" Yeah,
and I like that John is impossibly mad at this. He doesn't agree with it. I'm just glad that not everyone is okay with this,
Oh no, definitely. There's only 3 people who are okay with this.
Yeah.
And Pilot is not one of them, we'll find out later on.
But Pilot says that, his first duty is to the Leviathan and then to its crew. Mm-hmm. And he really seems to be kind of subservient to, certainly, at least somewhat by design.
Yeah, and what he also says is that his species apparently can't travel to space.
Yeah, not by themselves.
Volunteering as a pilot is apparently the only way to get up into the stars. And so it's a price they pay.
Yeah, and he's apparently prepared to pay anything just to do that.
No matter what your crew does?
Yeah, apparently so. It's a weird thing, because it's like he'll undergo anything just to see the stars. It's wow. Mm. Yeah, what lengths are you willing to go to, I guess?
Yeah, a lot, apparently. Oh, by the way, there's a very cool pan-out shot right before this scene where we pan out from the planet back to Moya.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, apparently the city, the location that Mantar's lab is in a skull of what looks like a dragon.
Yeah, like the giant skull inside, like that is sort of halfway buried in the asteroid. It's really cool. And
I mean, if you've seen the Pacific Rim, I think there's a scene in there where you see something similar.
And it is literally never brought up. So
no, I like that.
But it's a cool shot.
Yeah, we'll just put it in there just so there's a bit of extra background, and that's it.
But yeah, so Crichton is talking to Pilot, and like we said, but Aeryn has also confronted Zan and Dargo about this, and says, "How could you attack one of your own who is defenseless?" And that's the thing. Pilot is defenseless in his, in his command seat or in his pilot seat. He can't
go anywhere.
No, he can't move. He doesn't have any form of defenses. And so they just, they chopped a defenseless guy's arm off.
Just because they wanted to get home.
Yeah. And I like this because it's like, it's Aeryn showing compassion for someone else, and for Pilot in particular, who we've seen her bonding with. And actually, Dargo is a bit surprised as well. He says, compassion from a peacekeeper. And she's
like, compassion for a comrade.
Yeah. And so Dargo says that he would have done the same to anyone. It's like, Dargo, I'm not sure I like your attitude here.
And
fella.
then Zan's like, I understand what's bothering you, child. You can't get home, but don't deny us this. I'm like, fuck you, Zan. Seriously.
Like, no, come on. Don't
Yes,
deny.
chopping off an arm. Oh, yeah, no, that's... Sure, fine, go ahead.
But the deed is done, and it looks like Zan, Rigel, and Dargo will be going home. And so Crichton asks Aeryn to come and have a drink with him, because soon it'll just be the two of them.
At this point, he is smashed drunk.
Oh, he's hella drunk.
He is. He is wasted.
Wasted. But this scene is, we see just John drinking on Moya, and then Aeryn sort of comes in, and it looks like she's not going to stay, because she's doesn't want to hang around the very drunk John.
It's like, I have better things to do.
But then they start talking about how they're going to be the only two left and all that, and she stays with him and has... This is actually another nice scene where she's talking about how not only are Zan, Dargo, and Rigel going home now, one day John will go home. And he's like, well, if I find a way. But she says that, well, she's always been a peacekeeper and part of a team, part of a unit, part of a squad or whatever, never by herself. She said she's never been alone. Never. Which I thought was interesting, like literally never been alone, and that's why it's been so hard for her to be separated from everybody.
Yeah.
And now she feels like, clearly, as we saw earlier, she feels that everyone else is a comrade, which is why she's so upset with Zan and Dargo cutting off Pilot's arm, but now it seems like they're going to go. So as soon as she finds somewhere else she can feel at home, everyone else starts to leave, and she's worried that she's going to be left by herself.
Yeah, and what I really like in the scene, two things. One is that Aeryn, as John is standing there, she picks up the bottle and basically takes it away from John. She takes a drink herself, but it's very clear she puts it on the other side of the room. It's like,
you've had enough. Yeah, you had enough, buddy.
And also that John's like, well, you can come with me.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? Me live on a planet full with a bunch of yous? It's like...
I don't think so.
I mean, at least she'd blend in.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
She looks human.
Yeah. She's not happy about the prospect of a planet with billions of John Crichtons.
Like, okay, don't go on the holidays to the Bahamas. That's probably not a good idea. But go live in the Netherlands. It's raining here most of the time here right now.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And now so now we have this scene between Zan and Dargo. And Zan is surprised by Crichton's reaction, although she's not surprised by Aeryn's reaction. Yeah,
you'd think Zan would be more compassionate, talking about how symbiosis, all living things, blah, 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 a bunch of episodes back.
Although, remember the last episode? Where she let her darkness out.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing it more mixed into with the rest.
Yeah, there's a bit more of a streak of ruthlessness in her.
It's making me wonder how much of the nice side is actually genuine right now.
But Dargo says if it had been Crichton and he had a chance to go home, he'd have given his Mevonks for it. Now, remember when we said, remember what Mevonks are? Yeah.
Yeah. I like that Dargo adds with, well, useless as they are. Like,
hey, man.
But I do like that Zahn at this point is like, well, would you have given up yours? It's like, I'm glad it didn't happen. And
that's not an answer, Dargo. That's not an answer.
No, and he's actually insulted that she'd bring that up. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, your precious ball's a problem.
Yeah, that was my thought as soon as he said, like, well, I'm glad it didn't come to this. Like, answer the fucking question, Dargo. You hypocrite.
Yeah, they're both a bunch of enormous hypocrites. Like, yeah, I would have prepared to give this up. I would have prepared to give this up. Yeah. However, the other person, you didn't even ask if they were prepared to give that up. You just took.
Yeah.
Bunch of assholes. Yeah, this one's not great around the kids. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Next episode will be cheerier.
But Dargo is also seems to be intent on using Namtar's. Was surprised that no one's ever used Namtar's data as a weapon, and because they're discussing how revolutionary it could be. You could, could change navigation. Says Zan, and Dargo's like, nah, it would change war. And it's like, you what?
I like Dargo's thought here. You need you need to capture one person. You get their DNA. You just know what home planet to strike.
Yeah, I mean that's
brilliant.
Yeah, genius. You dick.
Look, I can appreciate good military tactics. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but again, that's his first thought of like change war forever.
He's a Luxon warrior. Give him some slack. If Zan had come with this, I'd be terrified.
Now they start arguing because, all right, we get that you are all desperate to go home, but everyone seems to be desperate to get home first. They just, well, we'll go to Delvia. It's like, no, we'll go to the Luxon homeworld. And then Rydel's like, no, we'll go to High Nira. It's like,
yeah, I actually appreciate what Zan says a little bit later, that it's like, we'll just go to the closest.
I'm like, how is that not your first thought? For like,
yeah. Or just be like, okay, what would be the shortest? What would be the shortest route?
Yeah,
you could also go with that one. Like everybody, the last person will be home as soon as possible. That would also work. Exactly.
Yeah, they're going to compromise and go to the closest one first, which is the sensible thing to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, back on the asteroid, Namtar he's upset because his experiment's not going very well. It's not working properly.
In anger, he waves a hand, and his entire desk just clears out.
Yeah, he has...
All the beakers would just fly through the room.
But he does that from across the room, by the way. He has some kind of weird psychic powers or something. And
also telepathic powers, because his assistant apparently experiences pain while he's angry.
Yeah, by the way, he has an assistant, by the way, who's been in the background of the scenes up to now. But they're like Space Igor.
Yeah, I love that one of her hands is enormous.
Yeah, because
giant hand.
He's got kind of like bulbous bits of skin and grafted things, and a hand that is like 4 times bigger than a normal hand on one side.
It looks very believable. Again, Jim Henson Company.
Yeah, they do good work, and it's clearly like she's kind of been experimented on and had things grafted onto, which he's a DNA mad scientist. What do you expect? But Aeryn has walked into the laboratory and has come to see him, and she says, "Well, I've changed my mind, and take a sample from my eye and find." Basically, she wants him to find a Sebacean colony that's outside of normal territories, because I like this actually that she says not. There's a Sebacean colony. They're not all in Peacekeeper space.
Which makes sense. I mean, you'd always have offshoots of cultures in small areas. So basically, she wants a remote outpost where she can just be among her own people.
Yeah, I think I like that it's not one race for one job. Basically, they're not all Peacekeepers. Although Peacekeepers seem to have given Sebaceans a bit of a bad rap.
Yeah. Actually, we know this from last episode, because Crace was actually drafted from
right. Yes, of course.
Sebaceans, and clearly his dad wasn't a soldier.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
So we actually technically already knew this, but
shush. Listen, I've been paying attention.
Look, I just noticed this as well. Okay, just right now I noticed.
Like literally right now while recording. This isn't in my notes. What the hell? And so she gets in the seat, and he goes to take a sample from her eye, but he actually injects something into her eye instead.
Yeah.
And her eye glows purple for some reason, which, again, that's not really explained. But
there's an interesting reason for that. We'll get to that at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Because I think I know why.
Okay. But yeah, so something, like we said, something else is going on here. But Rigel, back on Moya, says, well, I'm going home first.
Yeah.
And then Dan and Dargo are like, no, we talked about this, Rigel.
Well, I wasn't involved in these talks. True, but yes, we're going to go to the closest first.
And so they put the crystal with the map data on it on a console and start to input it into Moya. And Moya's receiving the data, but Pilot says, well, not really. There's
too much.
It's too much data for Moya to process and is therefore useless.
At first, they're like, if he's stopping that, if he's vindictive about the other things, like, no. This is the crystal itself, and Zhang confirms this. And then Rigel's like, well, it's fine then. We go back and we get a crystal for each location. and then Dargo's like, he asked for an arm last time. What do you think he'll ask this time? And I love Pilot here. It's like, yeah. What are you prepared to offer, Your Eminence? He's being very passive-aggressive here.
I like it. It's like, yes, it would be a shame if someone would have to lose something important to them. Yeah, that would be awful.
He actually says, like, well, next time you might actually ask for something valuable.
Yeah,
he's pissed.
I like that.
He says he isn't, but he's pissed.
I like that this seems to be Pilot's way of getting angry is just to get very passive aggressive.
I like it. I definitely like it.
Yeah. But yeah, he's quite right though. Like, you asked for a bunch of stuff for one crystal and now you want 2 more? Are you crazy? What the hell?
So basically, but there's enough data on that they can get one location if they destroy the other 2.
Yeah, so now...
So now we get to the point, who gets to go home? Welcome to the game show, Who Gets to Go Home? Are you prepared to murder your friends, put them into a locker, starve them out? Let's find out. God.
Yeah.
There's your conflict for this episode.
And so Rigel does what Rigel does and grabs the crystal and makes it get away really quickly. He runs away or flies away on his chair with the crystal. And
Dargo angrily walks after him. He doesn't run because then he'd catch up to the doll, to the puppet.
Yeah. He finds Rigel in his cell. And Rigel says, I've already hidden it. You'll never find it. And floats up to the ceiling of like, you can't get me.
And I like that what Dargo says at this point is like, okay, so you get home and then what? I get reinstated to my proper location. Yeah, how are you going to do that if he has an army and you don't? It's like, well, the court guards are the finest. His court guards are the finest. Yes.
You haven't really thought this through, have you, Rigel?
Yeah. And Dargo's like, if you take me home first, you'll be marching in there with a contingent of Luxon soldiers.
And then Rigel says, well, wait a minute. As soon as you get home, you're just going to kick me out. You're only saying this to make
And then he just gets
home.
angry. Dargo gets angry. He's like, yeah, of course he is.
Of course, that's very clearly what he's doing. Trying to do... I like that through the rest of this and this comes up again, but they're like trying to trick each other and it just doesn't work.
Oh, these people are too smart for that.
So yeah, that's where we leave those 2 for now. But Aeryn has come back to Moya and she's not doing good.
She's feeling like crap.
Yeah, and...
Again, what is it with people having horrible hangovers?
That's what it seems like. But yeah, Aeryn is not doing too good, and John is worried about her, and he says, "What is it? Heat delirium, PMS, peacekeeper military gets cut off."
She's like, "Frell you."
I was like, there was a brief second where I was really disappointed in John, and then he turned it around.
Oh, PMS. Oh, God damn it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was the whole point of that line.
What that stood for. Damn it, John.
I was like, God damn it, don't. And then he, peacekeeper military. I was like, okay, that's funny. Like I said, I was just like, damn it, John. Okay, you.
But she actually says "frell you," which is this the first time we hear that swear in the series?
I don't know. It may be.
Because I can't remember hearing it anywhere earlier.
I don't think so. Yeah, not
so. Frill is basically the equivalent of fuck for this series.
Yes, but it's probably something to do with various types of rating that they don't actually use real swears in the episode, along with things like meevonks.
To be honest, meevonks, even if you would have the option to use testicles, I would still be using meevonks because it sounds funnier.
It does. But yeah, she says "frell you" and goes back to see Namtar because she's like, well, something's wrong, I'm not feeling good.
What the hell have you done?
And there's something growing on her body, like she's...
belly. Yeah.
It's on
stomach.
on her stomach, and it's like white and sort of kind of slimy, and it's spreading out from like a point just below her chest, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The Namtar is actually at the bar having a drink, and she just twists his arm up behind his back, and it's like, all right, what the hell did you do to me?
And he just turns his nerve centers from pain to pleasure.
Yeah, because
it's like he can do that.
Apparently, I mean, he has telekinetic powers and can switch his biology around or something. And so yeah, she then pushes it up further to try and hurt him more, and she's like, and then he's like, "Oh yes, please keep hurting me."
It's very like he's getting off on this, isn't he?
Well, yeah, that's the point. But he says that, you're still in the latter stages of phase 1, and I'm not going to ruin the surprise.
You monster.
Yeah, he doesn't tell her anything, and Aeryn heads back to Moya having got nowhere, and goes to see Pilot, and she can... Apparently she's sensing DRDs and ship functions.
Yeah. Not even hearing them, she's
sensing
they're basically
them.
in her mind.
Yeah, Pilot is, like, confused. How is this possible? That should be impossible. And she lifts up her shirt again to show her belly, and out of the place where something was growing, there has become like a tiny little pilot arm.
Tiny cute arm. And also, two of her fingers have fused together in something that is starting to resemble one of Pilot's arms.
Yeah. So it's pretty obvious what's going on here, that she's been injected with Pilot's DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, a little bit more than just its DNA, but yeah.
Yeah, and Crichton actually turns up at this point and he's wondering what's going on with Aeryn as well, and she shows him his hand and her hand and the arm.
Her other hand.
Yeah, and again I like this scene as well, because she actually says she's only come back here and back to Pilot and Crichton because she's scared. She's really scared by what's happening.
Can I say Claudia Black is acting the hell out of this scene? Because she is selling that fear incredibly well. I was like, she really is terrified.
Yeah, and it is a terrifying thing. Like these weird mutations are happening all over her body, and she can't control it, and she's got sensory overload, and yeah, she's terrified.
Yeah, like, damn.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
It's very.
Really, I can't.
But yeah, it's very convincing. Speaking of convincing. Zan is now trying to convince Rigel to side with her, and by the way,
she's using the carrot.
Yeah. By the way, at this point, Dargo has locked Rigel in his cell, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had bad cop. Now it's time for good cop. for sexy cop.
Sexy good cop. Exactly.
Because the way Zan is trying to convince Rigel to side with her and go back to, Delvey or wherever, is saying that I could be very gentle and I could, we could do some stuff. She's coming on to him very heavily.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't function that way.
He says the line is, "I'm not a body breeder," which I'm not quite sure what that means, but I think
that makes sense.
It must be like amphibious things where they fertilize outside of the body. Or
that actually makes a lot more sense.
Like, I think fish do that.
Yeah, frogs do that as well.
There you go.
Because they have, if I remember correctly, the female lays the eggs and the man then just
fertilizes it.
I'm not entirely sure. And she's also like, well, I know the Hynerian eyebrow very well. It's like he's just going, oh.
I like this, by the way, because Rigel is kind of setting the I'm not a body breeder, and is actually kind of being a bit nervous about the whole thing, and then drops the act and is like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. It's like me be intimate with you. You're so blue. Wow, Rigel. Wow, that is racist. That is not okay. But yeah, he just brushes off Zan and is like, do you really think that was going to work? Like, that's some of the most transparent, stuff I've seen.
I was actually surprised that at this point she didn't just basically hurt him from outside of the cell, because we know she could, and she's done it before.
Yeah.
So.
Also, at the start of the scene, she's tempting him with a piece of food cube. Because earlier on he was unpacking his stuff for getting ready to go back and had thrown out a bunch of stuff and had a stash of food cubes.
Yeah,
which
Dargo took that from him.
Because Dargo was mad that, wait, did you have these when we didn't have food for 2 weeks or something? It's like, oh, it was my...
As I said, emergencies. In case of emergencies.
Yeah. But Dargo threw that took that out of the room when he locked him in, and so Zan was sort of tempting him with a bit of it, and it
didn't work.
And then she crumbles it up at the end when it's clear that she's not getting through to Rigel. So yeah, they're very much getting nowhere, literally and metaphorically.
They're playing nice, not really.
Not really. So meanwhile, Crichton has taken Aeryn back down to the asteroid.
And at this point, Aeryn is really losing her mind. She's having a lot of problems keeping her mind sorted, because apparently pilots can multitask incredibly well, so having several processes running in their mind at the same time.
Which makes sense, yeah.
Basically, their brains are multi-core.
Yes, exactly.
Parallel processors.
And she has sort of heightened sensory awareness because they walk through a bead curtain to get into the bar, and it really messes with her head.
Yeah, and I like that. Apparently, she got some tips from Pilot to string her thoughts, make a line of them.
Yeah,
and it's like, I appreciate that little bit of information that apparently Pilot has been instructing her how to cope with this.
Yeah, and by the way, she's also dressed in like a cloak with a hood to hide her sort of pilot limb stuff that's going on. Yeah. But then they see Cornata, who is Namtar's assistant from earlier, who had the giant hand and the sort of misshapen face. But on seeing that, she screams, which prompts Namtar to turn up. And he's like, "Oh, you're near the end of phase 2. Says you're progressing nicely." And so Crichton tries to attack him, and Namtar just throws him across the room.
Telekinetically. Yeah.
Yep, and then Namtar brings Aeryn to him. I got the impression that he was also doing that telekinetically, like, get over here.
That's what I thought as well.
And again, Aeryn looks terrified throughout this whole process, or this whole scene. And as he sort of brings right up to him and is sort of staring down at her, and
inspecting her, how she's coming along. Yeah.
She does manage to get some control and shoots him.
She pulls her out of her gun, and John's like, "No, he's the only one who can save you." And it's like, screw this. Boom, it just blows out part of his stomach.
Yeah.
It's like...
just like a massive hole in the side of his stomach.
Powerful gun.
Yeah, in fact, that's what he says. Like, that's a powerful weapon you have there. Apparently, he's not fazed by this at all. He's still standing there, because then it just regrows. That hole just fills back up again,
including the clothing and the metal. I'd like to point out.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, that was a little bit.
Okay,
wait a minute.
Fine.
Sure, why not?
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. But it looks, actually, CG-wise, that looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Can I just say that?
Yeah,
wound is the wound, the regrowing. It all looks fantastic.
Yeah, really well done.
I don't know who they got for the CGI on this episode. Keep that person on. Give him a permanent job.
Yeah, He did a good job. But then his side is regenerated, knocks Crichton down, and has taken Aeryn away. So now we go back to, as John says later, the Three Stooges. Larry, Curly, and Moe. But we have Dargo and Zan have both gone to see Rigel now, saying that they give him their oath that they will take him home first.
Yeah.
But they have this whole spiel about, we're sorry, we've decided we'll take you home first and
find our way home from there.
And we want to apologize. And then they open the cell doors, go in, and it's like, did he hear that? It's like,
turns out he's sleeping.
He's sleeping, but no, he's not, because Rigel pulled the old pillows under the bedsheets.
Yeah.
and zooms out, and it's like, gotcha, suckers.
Actually, he was already outside, because apparently he has a bunch of secret exits from that room.
Right, yeah, he says, you really think I'd be on this ship for years as a prisoner and not have my own way in and out? Yeah. So they're both locked in there now.
So he's going to go decode this thing and get his own location. Bye!
Yep. Good old backstabbing Rigel.
Yep. Like I said, this is something I expect from Rigel.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas
the others,
Dargo and Zahn actually a bit earlier have talked, and Zahn's like, Rigel's no longer our ally, he's our enemy.
It's like, oh, come on.
Dark Zahn is out, isn't she?
Yeah.
Like, she's not going back into that cage anymore.
Not anytime soon, certainly. But so now here is where we get the twist of what's actually been going on. So Cornata and Crichton are talking to each other because Crichton has kind of cornered her and is trying to figure out what is going on here. And Cornata says to Crichton that Namtar will do anything to keep Aeryn because he needs pilots' multitasking capabilities to add to himself.
Yeah.
Because that's what's been going on here. Like, the reason he has his telekinetic powers and can regenerate stuff and is super intelligent is because he's been taking DNA samples from different species and incorporating those traits from them, or the best traits from them, into himself.
Yeah. And she actually says she used to be the one running this research location.
Yeah, this used to be like a center for genetic research, and he was a test subject.
And all the other people in the bar used to be her co-workers. Like, they are all apparently experiments, which is the bit I don't buy.
Yeah, I don't think that...
That was too forced. They shouldn't have said that.
No, it could have just been that, he turned it over into a way of,
taking over her work.
Yes.
If it had been one-on-one, I would have believed that. That everybody else on the planet is apparently the rest of the research team. I'm like, don't believe, no.
Yeah, it's a little bit much.
It's too bit of a stretch. But actually what he's doing is, because we're in biology, I felt like looking some stuff up, and I know some stuff from...
Go on.
So actually what he's doing, incorporating genetic material of other species directly into them, that's actually something we can already do.
Yeah.
What we usually use for that are viruses, because viruses actually, how a virus reproduces, it goes into a cell of another species. It takes over the basically the core, and it tells the cell to just start reproducing the virus's DNA, and then once the cell dies off because of not maintaining itself anymore, then all the viruses pop out and get doing that.
Yeah.
But the quality of rewriting DNA is something that viruses have, and therefore we use those as something called retroviruses or vectors to insert DNA into other species. And we use this for mostly disease control.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, like you say, it's a real thing that he's apparently doing to himself.
Yeah, to levels that we are not capable of doing, actually. Like, the bare minimum is what we can do.
Yeah. But yeah, and he's trying to incorporate pilots, specifically the multitasking capabilities, so that he's even more super intelligent, basically.
Yeah, so he can do more things at the same time in his mind. And can I just say I have absolutely zero sympathy for this woman? Like,
I have, yeah, I think Like because the setup is that she was the original researcher and had done research on Namtar to increase his intelligence.
And at some point, he started doing that to himself,
and kind of overtook the whole place.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much how that works with test creatures. Like, yeah, you experiment on them, sure. But if they become the bigger species, then they get to experiment on you. I mean, if you want to experiment on other creatures and don't feel bad about that, that's your rationality. Sadly, it turns around once you have a more intelligent species.
But yeah, it seems though that they were trying to do it. That they were, I don't know. Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah.
It's clear that Namtar is much more of an arsehole than the others.
Okay, I will admit that.
So, yeah. And also, it also seems like he's been using Kornata as, a test bed for research as well, because she's misshapen, has the giant hand and all that stuff.
I mean, that could be what her species looks like, in theory. But probably isn't.
Probably not. No. But she's gone back with Crichton to Moya to see Pilot to work on a cure for Aeryn. But, I mean, they have to do it quickly because she says if she's gone for an Arn, Namtar will come looking for her.
Mm-hmm. And I like in this scene that their Pilot and Kornata are talking to each other, and John's like, is there anything I can... Shh! They both shush him, and it's like, please, we're working on it. Oh, by the way, Rigel's almost done with getting that his map decoded.
Oh yeah, and then Kornata says, "Wait, the crystal that Namtar gave." She's like, "Yes, okay. If you decode that, it will wipe Moya's memory."
I was like, sorry, what?
Because he doesn't want you to be able to leave.
And so he goes like, Rigel?
Yeah. So John's like,
storms off.
Runs into command where Rigel is, trying to decode the thing, and tries to get it away from him. Rigel snaps at him, almost biting his hand.
I love this.
He's just like, nam. John is just like, puts his hand just slightly in front of Rigel, and he's like, and then goes around with the other hand and grabs it. Just like knocks it out of his...
Come on, bite again. And there's like, he bites, and at that point, John goes around with his other hand and slaps the crystal out of his hand. And at this point, Darkman and Zahn have escaped the cell and are also coming in, and it just smashes on the ground.
Yeah, there's a slow-mo shot of the crystal falling to the ground and just... And you see their horrified looks of like, what have you done? And it's like, oh, what have I... What has Crichton done? Oh, yeah. No, this is the fucked up thing that happened this episode,
Yeah. What have you done? I'm like...
Listen, you cut off someone's arm without any kind of consent.
And
shut up.
Again, I was thinking she'd hurt him again, but she contains herself. It's like, yeah, no, that would have wiped Moya's memory. It was never meant to work. Yeah. So you cut off an innocent creature's arm for nothing.
Nothing.
Bastards.
Yeah. But
bastards. Yes. Nice, actually.
But it's cut off. But it's shattered, and Moira's fine. So okay, that's all right. There's still one thing we have to sort out because Kornata and Pilot have finished the cure for Aeryn. So Kornata and Crichton go back down to see Namtar. And Namtar's like, okay, if you've come to fight me again, I'm just going to kill you this time.
I don't have time for this. And John's like, no.
I want to see Aeryn, yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, well, Aaron's not here right now, but I can show you somebody else. I mean, it is Aeryn, but it's...
She's very far gone. Like, her entire face, only her eyes and a bit of her... and part of her hair is left. And
this is so... good as well because
she looks amazing.
Reveal of she has like a full pilot arm, but the costuming they did such, like you said, her head has been it's got widened like a dome, like on Pilot's head. She's covered in purple.
She's only a little bit.
Only a little bit.
With that, the head isn't as huge as Pilot's yet.
It's got sort of purple and grey not scale. Well. kind
slimy.
of slimy skin and sort of segmented parts down the rest of her body, and her teeth actually, they're not separated. They're like pilots. They're like a continuous piece of
I noticed that
enamel or whatever it is, chitin or something, and just they do an amazing job on. This is probably my favorite bit of costuming this episode.
She looks, like I said, she looks amazing. This major props to the Jim Henson Company, because this is, I think, without precedent. I've never seen anything this good. No, that's not true. Probably have.
Not seen anything this good in Farscape so far. This has been like another level. I will say, like, so Namtar, his head with their animatronic sort of lip flap, and the design looks really good. His hands, by the way, are massive, and there are like 3 fingers on each of them, and are not very articulated. So he kind of
those aren't that great.
And he's very clearly walking on stilts. Like in close-ups of his head, and when he's talking, it's very effective. The full body effect is less so, because it's more like, okay, that's a guy on stilts, and those fingers aren't moving. So that's why I would definitely put Aeryn, like pilot Aeryn, at the top. And again, I mean, we can see her eyes throughout all of this, and she really sells the terror of this whole thing. It's really disturbing, actually.
It really is.
And then we have Crichton arguing with Namtar about his reasoning for doing this.
Yeah, because he's like, how can you possibly do that? You of all creatures
should
know. Because he used to be a test subject.
Yeah.
Should know better.
And I want to point something out in this scene, because I think you may have noticed this as well, but...
Yeah, probably.
Everything Namtar says is wrong.
Yes! Thank you. So I wasn't the only one who noticed this bit.
Because Namtar goes off on a whole bit about evolution, and is about all species strive for perfection, and it's about evolution is about getting better, and, you know, it's like, that's not how that works.
Okay, kids...
Settle in.
Let me tell you something about evolution.
Science fact time.
Because this is the thing a lot of people actually misunderstand, that evolution is always going towards a higher or more perfect form.
Or more advanced form.
Yeah, which is not actually true.
A lot of sci-fi makes that mistake.
Yeah, and the idea about evolution is purely the most well-adapted species survives. Yeah. And that might mean that a species that is very small, like the mouse, survives, where a very more advanced and bigger species, like the dinosaur, doesn't.
Well, the thing is that more advanced is an incredibly nebulous idea, and doesn't really have. You can't say that. You can't unequivocally say that a mouse is more or less advanced than an elephant. No. An elephant is bigger and has, you know,
and maybe complexer.
Yeah, but advanced is not really a term that makes sense in biology, or certainly in terms of evolution.
It's the only thing that makes sense is, did you survive or not?
Yeah, because...
And if that means being a one-celled organism that can withstand insane amounts of radiation, then, well,
there you go.
Guess what? You're the winner.
Yeah, it's
you just get out a human.
Yeah, you adapt to better survive your environment.
Yes. That's the best one to survive the environment is basically the one that gets new kids, thus giving those genetic traits onto their kids, which might change a bit. And again, they're the best advanced, the best adapted one would survive.
Yeah,
and like you said, it's not a linear progression upwards, because there are also things like evolutionary dead ends.
Yeah.
The panda, I'd like to point out, is in some ways an evolutionary dead end, because the only thing it can eat really, is bamboo. And as that is going out, well, yeah, they don't really have an option to go anywhere else.
Yes, whoopsie. And the other thing is that when he says they're striving for perfection...
it's not a conscious choice.
It's not a conscious choice. Also, in terms of evolution, when it comes to like selection pressures, as my understanding is that the only thing a trait has to be, like, for traits to be passed on, they just have to not be... Negative, right.
Detrimental.
Detrimental. True. They don't have to necessarily be an advantage, they just have to not be a detriment to your survival. So, you know, things that don't really do anything can still stick around in a creature's biology.
There's a little bit on the bone around our butts. That
coccyx.
Coccyx.
Yeah.
Really? That's the English word for
That's
that?
the English word for it, yeah. It's like the...
How did they not notice what that sounds like?
I don't know, it's probably Latin word or something. It's the remnants of our tailbone from when we were simian-type species with tails and stuff. It does nothing, because we don't have tails, but it just isn't a problem. Except for when you sit down too hard on it.
But that has a bit of heavy enough survival selection of that, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Cause problems.
So yeah, literally everything he says, his whole argument about it's striving for perfection and to become ultimate organism, it's like, you're just wrong.
Yeah, he skipped Biology 101.
But then, I mean, Crichton doesn't really refute that because, I don't know, he's not a biologist, for one thing.
No, that's true.
But then he says that, okay, well, there were madmen on my planet like you who thought similar things and had no problem experimenting on men, women, children. He was called Mengele.
Yeah.
Like, you're a Nazi. You're a space Nazi.
I looked Mengele up because I was like, I feel like doing some trivia on this.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Do we want to open this can of worms?
I mean, we can give a quick overview of this if you want.
So I'll get the talking points. He was basically a Nazi scientist who worked at Auschwitz, doing all sorts of experiments on mostly twins.
Right.
Trying to prove that genetics would win out over environment, proving thus the Aryan race being more superior. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
The things he did to these twins are horrible. Infect them with diseases, and unnecessary amputations.
Yeah.
He did this stuff to kids.
Yeah.
They called him Uncle Mengele. He was very nice, friendly. There was a kindergarten there, a playground. He gave them sweets, very affectionate, and then he'd do experiments on them half an hour later.
Yeah, it's a real horror story, kind of. It's just... Oh, yeah.
I knew he was bad. I didn't know he was this bad.
Yeah, no, the things Mengele did were terrible.
But there is one thing. Remember how you said that you weren't entirely sure why the injections in the eye were a thing?
Right, yeah.
This is something Mengele did.
Oh!
Because he was he injected chemicals in people's eyes to try and change their eye color.
Oh!
So I'm pretty sure that the fact that they're injecting in eyes and taking DNA out of it is actually a reference to Mengele.
Oh, wow.
Because it gets brought up here again. I'm pretty sure they got the idea from him.
Wow, that's... Damn, I had no idea.
I found that. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
That's a really, interesting detail. And like you said, it shows their point of... I don't want to say inspiration, but,
Yeah.
for Namtar. And yeah, but of course Namtar says, well, he sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah, he sounds like a visionary. And John just gets up straight to him, faces inches from each other, and it's like he was a monster.
Yeah.
And at this point, Granada injects
Namtar
with...
Space Mengele.
Space Mengele with a needle. Because as John's been talking to him, she's been preparing something.
Yeah, in the background. And, okay, so... This is another silly bit, really.
Yeah, this doesn't work that way.
I mean, the whole thing they've been cooking up is to revert Aeryn back to her previous Sebacean form and get rid of all the pilot stuff. So what Konata has been doing is something similar for Namtar, because what then happens is he starts to... all his body parts just start to dissolve effectively.
Yeah.
What actually happens is he reverts to what he was originally. He goes back to his original form.
Yeah, it's like a little sort of...
Like a rat.
Gremlin, actually. If
Yeah.
Gremlin was my first thought. Combination of those two.
But yeah, it's a tiny little thing. It just, but then just reverts back down into that thing somehow.
And then Granada picks him up on his neck. I thought she was just going to snap his neck. And then just puts him back into the cage. I'm like... Sorry, I would have just stepped on him.
Yeah.
Like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, get lost.
Yeah, screw you.
Like, after that, no way. Even then. And it would be morally wrong to experiment on him further.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what she's got planned, but yeah. That whole sequence was that was weird. And it didn't really make sense, but whatever. But yeah, Namtar has been dealt with.
And so Aeryn needs to be saved finally. And Granada hands John the injector to basically fix her, but he tries to do it in her arm. She's like, no, it needs to be in her eye.
Why does it need to be in her eye?
Well, it makes sense because the original was also put in the eye.
No, that doesn't make sense. How the fuck does that make sense?
It doesn't.
Okay.
We've been about this. We know where the reference is.
I know where the reference... Yeah, sure. I mean, make more sense to, extract a sample and from their eye, like they were doing at the beginning.
No, it doesn't.
Because you're taking something out. You're taking, I don't know, a piece of genetic material from the eye or whatever. You're trying to inject something into somebody. You use a vein, for fuck's sake.
A vein would work. Actually, the eye is very good at absorbing liquids. So it's injecting into it, but putting it into it's not that bad idea. I mean, let's just say there are ways to get really drunk through other orifices than your mouth.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've seen that before.
Don't do that, kid.
Don't
Your eye isn't built for that.
Don't try it at home. Really do not do that at home.
No.
So yeah, but he does... I like this actually. John gets his hand up with a syringe in it, and at first is shaking, so he has to steady it with his other hand. Because he's also very distraught by this whole thing, because Aeryn is terrified.
And Aeryn's like, she nods, is like, do it.
Yeah. And so
then she starts convulsing.
And, oh god, yeah, it's like, oh shit, what the fuck? No!
And John's like, what have I done? What have I done?
And...
You saved his life. You saved her life.
And then, cut back to Maya, and Aeryn is fine.
Yes. Food tastes a bit funny. Her thoughts are apparently a bit jumbled, but...
I like that this cut does imply that the progression of time somewhat. So it's not like he injected her and then immediately everything was fine, but...
Yeah.
I actually like this as well because I thought this was really sweet that they're in the mess hall, basically, and John brings over a tray with food cubes arranged in a smiley face.
Yeah.
And puts it in front of Aeryn, who's just like, So it's a smiley face. It makes the... You know what? Never mind. I thought that was really sweet. It was like, "Aw, John."
And then he asks her, like, what was the worst thing? And she was like, I think it was still being in there. It didn't make total sense what she said to me.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about this either. I think...
like being yourself on the inside, but not recognizing yourself on the outside, I guess?
I think the idea is, being trapped inside her own body, basically. Something along those lines.
I do like that John then says you would have fit in right in on Earth. Like, even looking like that, he would have been like, you could just come along.
Yeah, I think also, well, what I got from that scene was the fact that she wanted to belong. The whole reason she went down there and went through that whole thing, the whole reason that she went back to Namtar was because she wanted somewhere to belong and was prepared to, let's find another peacekeeper, or another Sabatian colony. And that idea to try and find a sense of community somewhere, that's what I thought he was talking about. It's like
that makes more sense.
You would have fit in. You'd fit in on Earth fine. You're not, not so different. You do. You just want somewhere to belong, which is something that John totally gets. And so, yeah, there you go.
And then there's two things. One shot of the ship flying what looks like outside of the galaxy. I wanted to ask you if that makes sense.
We've seen this shot a couple of times of kind of Moya going across the screen with what looks to be the galaxy in the background. I mean, it's not that unusual. It could be that's why they're in the uncharted territories, because they're so far out from the center that nobody knows where anything is.
I guess that makes sense.
it's at an angle that it looks like they're flying above it, though, which I don't know. A lot of sci-fi will do that, where it's like, this doesn't make a whole bunch of sense.
No, whatever. Why would you be that far out of the galaxy? Anyway.
But anyway, we have that shot, and then we see Dargo has gone to see Pilot, and Pilot has said that his arm will regrow. They do have regenerative properties, his species, but it'll take time. And Dargo has gone to see how he is, and Pilot he actually says if the situation came up, he would do the same thing again. It's like, well, at least you're consistent, I guess. But it seems like he's trying to be at least somewhat apologetic about this whole thing. And then Pilot says, I know Luxons don't apologize. And Dargo's been carrying something with him this whole time, by the way, like a big board or with like a handle on it. It's not his quarter blade. I thought it was at first, and I was like, wait, no, that handle is way too big. And Dargo's like, oh, and Pilot recognizes it as something Dargo has been working on. And, oh, it's finished. What sort of weapon is it? And Dargo says, it's not a weapon, it's a shilkin? But it's an instrument.
Something like that.
It's an instrument, so he puts it down in front of Pilot's seat and just starts playing it. And then we pan out from there to show Pilot's chamber, and that's where the episode ends.
Fuck you, Dargo. Seriously, fuck you. Unless you multi-class into Bard. Sorry, that scene really got under my skin. I'm like... play a pretty tune. It'll all be fine. I'm sorry, this episode really got me salty. I guess that's a good mark to get to the episode because it actually got me emotionally invested. Yeah,
I think at the end, Luxons don't typically apologize, apparently, but this seems to be what Dargo's trying to do as by way of some kind of apology, which doesn't really, it's not really.
He chopped his arm off.
He chopped his arm off.
No,
it's not okay.
Yeah, that changed my perspective on the series and the crew quite a lot.
Well, what this episode showed, or what this episode really demonstrated, was how far some of them are willing to go to get back. And remember, I mean, we're 9 episodes in. They're still coming together as a crew. They're still... A lot of them aren't really true friends. They're colleagues. They're trying to survive together. There has been bonding. They have started to get on, but they're not really... I get the sense that certainly they're not... They don't feel like a family yet.
No, I mean... It felt like a big step backwards from all the other stuff that we've been seeing thus far. Well, the
other thing is that, they're still very desperate to go home and have not really accepted life on Moya with everybody else as, their way of life.
And they're prepared to give up quite a lot, as I said earlier, to get home, which...
And it also shows how they see Pilot as, or at least some of them do see him as... a servant or as a resource almost, which that's not okay.
Yeah, this episode really set Aeryn and John apart from the others.
Yeah,
which I noticed. Like they had been, Aeryn had been the old man out, usually being more aggressive, and a bit of Dargo and Zan and to some degrees Rigel, but also they've come together a lot, and this is the first time I've really seen a massive schism between them.
Yeah,
how different they are.
But again, it does further strengthen that bond between John and Aeryn, which we had kind of set up in the previous episode.
Yes.
And yeah, I think it also shows how Pilot feeling... Also reinforces that Pilot is certainly currently apart from everyone else. He's the pilot and he's very important, but he's not really part of the crew at this point.
No.
And this sounds like it'll have some repercussions going forward. That John and Aeryn are gonna maybe side with each other against the others in the future.
Yeah, I'm expecting that to happen a lot more.
Yeah, so what did we think then? Where would we rate this episode?
I'm gonna go with 4 out of 5, but I'm probably heavily biased.
I think 4 out of 5 sounds about right. I was wavering between 4 and 5, but I think there's a few things, and just it's a really effective episode. It does what it does very well, but
it feels so out of character for some of them.
Some of them, yeah, it just comes as a bit of a shock when you come back and they suddenly are pulling Pilot's arm off, and it really feel. Listen, we've talked about how, like, I think you said your favorite puppet is Rigel.
Mm-hmm.
Me, on the other hand, my favorite is Pilot. Pilot is one of my favorite characters for this entire series. So a lot of this episode really hurt to watch.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just
I'm growing fond of Pilot, especially during this scene, this episode.
The whole passive aggressive.
I'll be honest. I actually like him doing that. But yeah, I'm still partial to Rigel. I'm sorry.
No, I mean that's fine. But for me, it was. And again, they do an amazing job of selling his emotions with the puppet. And God, yeah, it was tough to watch in some places when they're pulling the arm off and all that stuff. And but yeah, I would give it 4 out of 5. And like I said, as with a lot of stuff like this, when something kind of sort of out of character happens, I just hope it doesn't end here, and I think, because if it does, it will have been an out of character episode. It won't have been growth or development or a reveal.
If this is a revolution of how things are going forward, okay, but it comes out of nowhere, really.
Yeah, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, and it was very disturbing in places, and and I think the standout parts for me are, again, Pilot's character and Aeryn getting made into a pilot Sebastian hybrid kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go. That was DNA Mad Scientist. It was a hell of an episode. It was a thing that happened. Do you want to know where the idea for this episode came from?
Oh.
So yeah, this episode came about when David Kemper, who is a writer for the show, when he first saw the pilot puppet, and he asked another crew member, Matt Carroll, he said, "Can we cut off one of Pilot's arm in a story? Can we just do that?" And apparently Matt Carroll was just a bit stunned. Was like, "Yeah, I guess we can." He's like, "Great." And he just wrote the episode.
That's actually a nice one.
Also, something, I don't know if this will affect your result or score of the episode, but something to notice, like, Dargo at least attempts some form of apology, even though he doesn't really do it probably well enough.
Mm-hmm.
Zan and Rigel don't do anything.
I mean, there was only time for one apology at the end of the episode, so...
I guess so, but I was expected something out of Zan. But
at this point, I'm not sure what I expect out of Zan. Really.
But there we go, yeah. But yeah, that was the episode. That was, like we said, that was good. 4 out of 5, and that goes along with what Farscape World would say.
What's up next week?
Yeah, let's talk about next week. So next week, we are episode 10. We're 10 episodes in next time.
Ooh.
And it's the episode They've Got a Secret. And let me see. Yeah, alright. The first line of the synopsis, or the blurb for this episode is, when inspecting access shafts, Dargo is flushed into space.
Wait, what? Okay.
You heard me. So yeah, that should be interesting. We'll see where they go with that.
Huh.
But that'll be next time. That'll be next week on the Farscape Rewatch podcast. And that's it for this week. And if you liked what you heard, or if you want to support the show, then please do check out the Can't Wear Hats Patreon, which supports all my projects, including live streams on Twitch and other videos and stuff yet to come. And if you want to get in touch, leave us a comment below the video on YouTube, youtube.com/can'twearhats for all of that stuff. Or get in touch with us on Twitter. I'm at Twitter @Can'tWearHats, and Red is at Vidalcanintry.
Yes.
But that's it from us this time, and we'll see you next time for They've got a secret. Shh. Goodbye. Okay, Red. I'm really late with my rent. I'm gonna need your arm.
What? No.
It's fine. It's just.
Put that down.
It's just an arm.
Get away from
You don't
me.
need
No,
it. You've
no,
got
no,
more. It's
no.
fine.